Hi, today is Thursday the 27th of January and it's new beginnings for us here in England and a few other places as the restrictions are lifted. Hurrah! And what was interesting for me was on this day, every day I pull out a card from my Ganesha Oracle deck. Some of you might like your Oracle cards. And the one I picked today was number 1, Beginnings. New beginnings. I feel like there's new beginnings happening. If it was a new moon, I'd be even more like, wow. Maybe it is a new moon. No, it can't be. Must be half moon. But anyway, new beginnings. This is new times for us all. But we can have new beginnings constantly throughout our lives as we progress onwards and change and go forwards in our, hopefully, spiritual development. And I suppose what I wanted this to be about was, we have these new beginnings. Let's try not to go back into our mechanical ways of thinking and our mechanical ways of doing, and instead go forth with a new beginning, with our new versions of ourselves, of being the spiritual warriors we want to be. This is our chance to do it. So we can work on this every day. But we easily fall back into old patterns. But by doing either the Gurdjieff work or some kind of spiritual path working, hopefully you're training yourself to realise when you fall back into old patterns, and to old patterns that hold you back, old patterns that bring in negative activity, old patterns that are not helping you on the right path. And you can normally tell that because you can feel it in you, like a niggling or a strange feeling in your solar plexus. When everything's right, everything feels calm and harmonised. And for those of you that read the Gurdjieff work, you know that he talks a lot about we're all mechanical, we're automatons, we follow our patterning that we've been given, and we want to break that patterning. But to do that, we need to understand why we felt that way or spoke that way, or why we repeat these patterns. And that does mean analysing oneself. And I've said in other shows, sometimes that's quite difficult to do. We don't want to look at where we screwed up. Don't want to look at how we're not being our best and not perfecting ourselves. But they are good lessons. You know, I know it's not an easy path to be a spiritual warrior, but it is worthwhile in the end. The development that comes from it is, you know, the new you, the real you. And that makes quite a difference. You might not see it straight away, but you will begin to feel it, and you'll begin to think differently. You'll begin to act differently. When you're with someone that you've known for a long time and they always press your buttons, well, instead of letting them press your buttons, you've got to look at why they press your buttons, understand why they are pressing your buttons, what it is they're doing. And rather than have a go at them, oh, you're pressing my buttons, think of it from their point of view and realise that they're still learning as well, they're developing themselves. I'm going to go this way so you can see the gorgeous sun, because it's about to set. The setting sun of the day that's the beginning of all our lives. And any day could be a new beginning for you. But yeah, as I was saying, so we need to look at ourselves and other people and how they're reacting towards you and how you are. You know, I still have people that I meet up with that as soon as I meet up with them, they rankle me, and I'm like, oh, that's because I'm caught up in old patterns about what they've done in the past. We have to forgive and move on and realise that people are changing as well. Not everybody changes though, and this is one of the things that I wanted to say. You're working on yourself, you're changing, you're seeing things differently, you're developing yourself and thinking twice before you speak, or making sure you don't fall back into them old patterns. But other people aren't, so they're still programmed, sadly. But they will see a difference in you. I myself did notice that it used to really rankle people if I didn't follow the patterns of before and fall for their weirdness of them trying to catch me out and things like that. I'm sure you know what I mean. I'm not giving any specific details here, but I'm sure you've had experiences like that. And at first it will make them a bit on edge, thinking, oh, what's happened to you? Why have you changed? Then people get a bit pissed off that you're developing and they're not, and they don't understand why, because they're not developing themselves and not interested in this kind of thing. Or maybe they are. I've had others where are also working the same kind of spiritual path, and they get a bit annoyed if you're suddenly going a bit ahead of them. But everyone goes ahead, and then they fall back, and then they go ahead, and someone will speed past you. It happens. We don't all develop at the same time. You know, because there's no... It's not like being in a classroom where we all move on from level 5 to level 6. It all happens individually for each person. It's the parakeets. I don't know if you can hear them. They've just decided to fly over. So I wanted to say, keep on doing this kind of thing. It's a never-ending process. And the results will be phenomenal once they happen. Or start happening, you know, and you start seeing your difference. I've said before on other shows how I didn't realise I'd changed until a few years later. It's like, oh, I'm not the same person anymore. Thankfully, in a good way. So there are moments when we're doing this where we feel it isn't happening, but those are the times when we've got to take note of that. Oh, things aren't changing, or I'm not developing, or I'm still doing old patterns, and it's catching yourself doing it. Gurdjieff would be like saying this is self-observation of yourself. And at least you're thinking about it and hopefully going on to feel about why you're being like that. And if you're noting it, then you're doing it. You're making progress. Because every time you think about it, it happens. I also noticed that if I was, you know, at home on my own and I'll be thinking about all these processes and how I'm going to react differently or act differently in the future, that's building it up in your subconscious that will work on your conscious. When things do happen, you do slip up and suddenly you think, oh, I didn't want to be like that. It does do it, which is why pondering is very important. I talk about pondering a lot. But I know it's a difficult thing to do at times. I suppose many of us weren't brought up to think about things. We're programmed from school to be told what to think. Where spiritual path development, you have to learn to think for yourself. Always good to get advice, read other things, look at other shows. No, there's a plane going over. This happens a lot when I come to the woods. Hi. And people going by. So Gurdjieff says that you shouldn't come to him until you've... I'll just let this plane go. Wave at it. Can you see it? Oh, it's flown by now. Gurdjieff says you should study as much as you can. Look at other systems. Look at other religions, theologies, philosophies. In fact, he advises it before you come to his work, because then you've got a background of what way other places work and other systems, and then you can find how his would work more. Well, it's having knowledge, because once you've started having knowledge, you have to turn it into wisdom. And that's another thing I've noticed with a lot of people. Many people have knowledge, but they don't have the wisdom that goes with it to help with the waking up and the carrying on being part of the process. It's nice to spout out lots of knowledge. You know, I go to many different classes for different organisations, and so many people are so willing to throw facts at me, facts. And then I always say to them something like, well, what are you going to do with this? How can you change these things? And it throws them a bit, and I'm not doing it as a trick question. I just want to try and get people to think. You know, it's nice to be knowledgeable, but you've got to be wise. So I'm not sure how to end this now. Maybe I'll just finish it on that. Everybody keep the wisdom. Be the Jedi you want to be. Be the spiritual warrior you want to be. But remember, there's many paths. But a lot of it is inner work, as they call it. Thank you for watching. This is my second part of my video, because I meant to also say we can always ask for help. You can always speak up to the gods, the divine source, call for angels, call for your ancestors to come and help you. They might not answer straight away, but results will come. I often speak to Gurdjieff. Oh, here comes my friend. I often speak to Gurdjieff and ask him to guide me. And we can do that. People are out there listening, and those that want to help will.